I grew up in Christchurch. I've spent 3/4 of my life living here. And so Christchurch has that lovely easy familiarity of my hometown. I can could wander into town on the weekend, knew where to find everything, knew how to get there. Now, of course, in Christchurch, you need to look up where things are. Then you need to look up a map to find out where that is. Then you might need to ring it up and actually say, are you really still there? And then, of course, you need to look up another map to actually find out which roads are open to get there. So where some of these people in the city went is kind of personal to me, as is everything to do with the recovery of Canterbury for anybody who does live in Canterbury. But this study is also about filling in just another small piece of the jigsaw about what can we learn from this disaster that's going to make our communities more resilient in the future, and that we can pass on to other communities to build their resilience. So when you're asking the question, where did people in the city go? Well, the first thing to start with is, what do we already know? Well, anyone who tried to find a car park at any of our big shopping malls, Northlands and Riccarton, in the weeks and the months after the earthquake know that the malls were absolutely booming. But I don't remember the malls being particularly empty of shops. So they may have been booming after the quakes with people, but that doesn't really wholly answer where did the shops go. Another wee piece of the puzzle, this is the beautiful new development called the Tannery, which is a little bit of a boutique retail destination. We've got the Colombo Mall in Sydenham pre-existing, and it's kind of reinvented itself. We've got the wonderful area, of course, that's the Restart, but that's only home to about 30 or 33 retailers. And the lovely touch of old now, that's New Regent Street. But again, in New Regent Street, the people who are opening up are not the same businesses that were there before. What else do we know? Someone very helpfully yesterday said to me, why don't you just take a drive down Blenheim and Lincoln Roads, Tracy, there's your answer. Well, yes, it is in part, okay. This is the heat map that the CDC put out showing the red area is the economic hotspots and the blue, the economic cold spots. Yes, a lot of businesses have moved out to these red areas, but when I did take my drive down there, what I saw was offices. I didn't see the retailers and the hospitality people so much. So another small piece of the puzzle. What we do know is that we're still spending money, which is good news for us at the macro level. So Canterbury at the top there, you know, we're still out spending our money. Yes, we lost population, but that population is coming back up, perhaps just a slightly different composition to it. Employment numbers. We had a low in June 2012, 306,000 people employed in the Canterbury region. But we're getting back up as of June 2013, 323,000. There's a lot of variety sectoral. Now, I haven't put all the sectors up because it's just too much information to take in on one graph. Retail in green, because retail is really where the focus of this study is. You can see the huge big dip and then starting to grow back up again. What else do we know? Well, business failure, which clearly is a very interesting statistic. We're running just under 3% above the average for the rest of New Zealand. So the general about 10% average, 9.8%. But of course that's at 2012 because there's a really big lag in these figures coming out from Statistics New Zealand. New Zealand for 2012 was 9.8. But within those figures, yep, huge sectoral variation. For 2012 there were 47,000 deaths, business deaths. And of that figure, 5.8% were retail, 3.8% were accommodation and food. So actually those sectors are a lot lower than that overall average of 10%. One last contextual factor when I'm talking about, well, what do we already know, is we know that rents have gone up enormously and that we've lost most of the C and the D grade kind of accommodation that a lot of small retailers were using. And from people I've interviewed, we're talking 50% increases in rent. So this is all of what I could kind of find out easily. It didn't really answer my question. It's all little small pieces of the puzzle of what happened to these guys in the city, but it's definitely not the whole picture. So very conveniently, what I came across was the Central City Business Association's online directory, which was preserved as a record of the city prior to the earthquakes. So the Central City Business Association, it was set up about 5 years before the earthquakes to promote the Central City, which of course was facing this stiff competition from the malls. Its initial boundaries were these ones in blue. So obviously more of the businesses I looked at are within that smaller area and some outside in the broader area shown on the map when its boundaries expanded. So what I have done is painstakingly, one by one, I have looked up the 355 businesses that were in this directory, which showed me their previous address, helpfully in some cases their website. I've looked them up one by one to find out where have they actually gone. This is only stage one of the study. Before you can talk to them, you have to find them. Firstly, who were they? 36% part of national, international chains, Glassons, Trade Aid, Muffin Breaks, you all know the international chains. 64% more of our independent guys, so 2 or fewer stores, maybe a store in Christchurch and a store in Dunedin, or just a store in Christchurch. Retail, 75%. Food, restaurants, bars, cafes, food courts, about 25%. What I found, well, 15% of them have downsized, so that's 53 predominantly chains who used to perhaps have 6 stores in Christchurch, they now have 5 or some similar combination. In some cases it's not surprising. This is a picture of the Crossing food court for those of you who are Canterburyans, up where you could sit and watch the buses go underneath you. Now a lot of the businesses in there are franchises. Where are they going to go? Robert Harris, for example, it's already in every mall in Christchurch. Now, yes, it's a chain, but no, it's actually just somebody's business, you know, an individual. Not a lot of options for some of these stores. Also, for the big guys with the resources, why would you take a gamble on a new and unknown location if you've got 5 other shops to sort of buffer your loss? Now, the positive of these downsizes, though, is that one could speculate these are the most likely people to be the first new occupants of a rebuilt city centre. They haven't put down permanent roots elsewhere. When we have somewhere for them that is appealing and attractive to reopen, perhaps they will. New locations, so this is, you could say, the success stories, I guess. 32%, and another 2% who've got both new locations and new names. They've taken the opportunity to give their business a bit of a spritz up, or maybe they were called Manchester Street here, and obviously that's just not appropriate anymore. And look, this is potentially changing every day. Some of these things are really very recent. At the same location, 2%, 6 businesses. I had to ring every single one of these actually, because when you look it up on the computer and you see their address, you go, no, surely you can't be. So I imagine that some of these guys are really struggling as well. Now, 2 of them are very recent. That would be probably 2 of the hotels that have just reopened or are just about to reopen in the city centre. That's some of the guys who are still there. Caravan Camping and Marine, I just couldn't believe it. I had to ring them. Okay, Homer Online. So these guys are still in business. 3%, 11 businesses. One, for example, here, the Sauce Kitchen, used to be an actual cafe, and so it adapted, and obviously adapted well to be food to go and catering. Not operating in Christchurch, so they still exist. This is 10%. 28 chains who no longer have a Christchurch store, maybe they're only just Wellington and Auckland. Again, that's possibly good news. They may be, again, ready to reinvest in Christchurch when they see that there's somewhere to reinvest. And 6 who had only 1 store and have physically upped and moved out of the region. Can't be found not trading, 37%, so 130 businesses. Now I need to clarify this one because it's hard to give definitive proof of something you can't find. For 52 of those businesses, I found some kind of evidence that we're not up and running yet. For 76 of them, I just can't find them. And what that means is that they do not exist on the internet. It's pretty hard to do business without leaving some trace of yourself, even if it's on a review website or on these free directory kind of websites. 2 businesses who have relocated and reopened but have since failed. So by type of those who I can't find, only 5 associated with chains Well, that's hardly a surprise, is it? Because having multiple locations does buffer you against some of the impacts of a disaster like this. 66 of that 130 are retail and 64 are hospitality. And if you remember at the beginning, I said that 25% of my 355 businesses were hospitality. So clearly they are overrepresented, not surprisingly, in the can't be found not trading category. So there's a summary. It's a bit like Christchurch itself. It's not neat and tidy. I set out thinking there would be trading, not trading moved, and no, there's all sorts of innovation and adaptability coming in to create my 8 or 9 categories. It's still very fluid, it changes every week, and there's more work needed to understand the non-trading businesses. That is the next steps in the study, is to try and verify them and to try and actually talk to some of them. What are they doing? There's been 10,000 new businesses registered in Canterbury since September 2010. How many of those new businesses are some of these old ones with new names? How many people have just taken the opportunity to retire? That'll be the next steps that I hope to find out. Thank you.